We bring you this at this point. It's D-Day for the Amazulu monarchy today. The High Court in Pietermaritzburg will hand down judgment on the validity of King Goodwill Zwelithini's will. It's been contested by Queen Sibongile Dlamini-Zulu's two daughters who claimed that the signature was forged. eNCA senior reporter Siphamandla Goge is covering that story for us. But he joins us now to give us, of course, an update on the very latest outside court. Siphamandla, good to have you and good morning to you. So what can we expect from court this morning?
Well, today is mainly about the judgment. We expect Judge Madondo to hand down the judgment. He reserved his judgment in this matter, I think, few months ago. Basically, at the center of it, really, there were two applications that were brought to the High Court Division in KwaZulu-Natal, sitting in Pietermaritzburg, and they've got to do with the application that was brought by the late King's first queen. I'm talking about Queen Sibongile Dlamini of Mthandayo Royal Palace. She was basically contesting that as the first wife, she should be allowed to inherit 50% of the late King's estate. She says she qualifies for that and she must inherit that, and the other wives must share the rest of the 50% of the estate. That was application number one, even though initially she had anticipated and hinted that she was going to challenge the validity of the other marriages of the late king to the other five queens, because she was saying she is the only one who was legally married to the late king. But then in court, of course, her legal team was unable to advance that argument properly. There was an instance whereby her legal team wanted to amend their application and their submission, but of course Judge Madondo had to dismiss that. So today the judge will rule and hand down judgment on that aspect of the court case. There are two court cases here. The first one, as I've alluded to, is the fact that the late king's first wife wants to inherit 50% of the estate. Then application number two, or case number two, was brought by the late king's two daughters from the same queen. I'm talking about here Queen Sibongile Dlamini of Mthandayo Royal Palace. Now the two princesses are arguing that their father's will, the signature in that will, may have been forged. So they wanted the court to determine the validity of that signature on the will. Why does that matter though? It's because the will is the one that gave the throne to the late Queen Richard Mantombi, whom in turn nominated her firstborn son, the current king of Amazulu, Misuzulu, to be the king of the nation. Now that is contested, even though in court there was no application that was contesting King Misuzulu and contesting for the throne, but somehow there are those who are saying that this case may have some implications depending on the outcome. Remember that royal dispute over the throne is still underway, so this outcome will be eagerly awaited.
With that being said, Siphamandla, when we speak about, of course, this bid by the Queen Sibongile Dlamini-Zulu to have her inherit 50% of the late king's assets and have the other wives inherit, or rather share, the rest of the 50%, where does it place that contestation of having their marriages, I'm talking about the other five wives here, their marriages rather regarded as illegal and invalid? Did that continue, just in terms of clarity regarding this case?
I think we'll have to find out from the judgment, because initially when Queen Sibongile Dlamini brought the application, that is one of the things that she wanted to contest, to say, hang on, we are six here, and then I'm the first wife. I'm the one who's legally married to the late king. All these other marriages that followed should be declared null and void. But in court, when her legal team was arguing, they placed it on record in court that, well, in a sense, they are not necessarily challenging the other marriages of the late king to these other queens. And in fact, they considered that they even want the children of the late king from all the queens to be treated equally. So that was one of the arguments that stood up in court when the arguments were heard. And then the team, the legal team of the queen, ended up in a way backtracking from that one. But today it will be interesting how Judge Madondo will rule in that matter, because I think at the center of this application really was that argument to say what is the status of the other queens. But during arguments in court, of course, that matter was ventilated, but it will be the subject of today's judgment.
All right, we'll leave it there, Siphamandla Goge, and of course we'll be sure to get back to you as soon as other developments do occur out in Pietermaritzburg, where we understand that of course we will be hearing that judgment from Judge Madondo regarding Queen Sibongile Dlamini-Zulu, of course, his bid to of course have her inherit, or at least that's her bid or contestation to have inheriting 50% of course of the late king's assets.